Welcome to the Rock is George podcast. I'm your host, George Dionne, and this is episode 126. Thank you for tuning in. Be sure to hit that like, follow, or subscribe button on the platform you're listening on. You can also check me out at the loudest.com on the planet, knac.com, for exclusive interviews, live show reviews, photos, album reviews, and more, not available on the Rock is George podcast. My guest for this episode is vocalist ROSS Jennings of the UK progressive metal act HAKEN, which unfortunately I pronounce Haken at the beginning of our interview, and I apologize to Ross and the band and the fans for that one. HAKEN recently released their 7th studio album, Fauna, on March 3rd through Inside Out Music, and they're gearing up for their North American Fauna Expedition tour starting on May 3rd. And here's frontman ROSS Jennings of HAKEN to tell you more about it. If I knew absolutely nothing about HAKEN, how would you describe the band's music to me?
We're essentially labeled as a progressive metal act. I find that quite restrictive, honestly. Our sort of unifying factor is that we do all come and are inspired by heavy metal. But there's so much to the music we write. There's so many influences in what we do. So yeah, it's really an eclectic beast, amalgamation of different styles, and so yeah, we like to feel like there's something for everyone in what we do, but there's always like a hard edge to the sound.
Absolutely,
yeah.
Kind of the big news coming out of the HAKEN camp is that you're going to be starting your North American Fauna Expedition. On May 3rd, and it's lasting through June 3rd. It starts in Nashville. When was the last time HAKEN toured the North American continent?
Well, we were over last May, opening for Symphony X for about a month as well. So that was cool. We, playing to a slightly different audience to our regular punters. Perhaps we made some new fans along the road there, but yeah, it's been a while since we've actually come out and done a headline tour, so we're really stoked and excited to be playing a full set out there, longer than 60 minutes, and it's going to be great. Yeah, we're super excited.
You got a wealth of material kind of to choose from at this point. You're on your 7th album, so how do you break down the set list for something like this?
Oh man, it's so difficult. There's hours and hours of music now, and there's always everyone's got different favorites. So really we have to kind of ignore that and just focus on what's going to flow well, and try and cover a lot of the different records as well, try and keep it kind of balanced. But really we're going out celebrating the new record, and we want to give these new songs a live airing and a chance to see how well they go down with the audience. So, yeah.
You're going to be making your way through my neck of the woods on May 9th at the Paradise Rock Club in Boston. That's right up there next to Boston University. So you're probably going to be getting a crazy crowd, even though it's a Tuesday night. Boston
is always fun for me. I'm a big Aerosmith fan. So I know, the Boston Bad Boys. It's always fun to kind of come, walk through that city, and you got it's a great music city as well. So yeah, great. I can't wait to come back, and play there. Yeah, but it's we're covering so much ground on this tour. It's all going to go by in a flash, I'm sure.
Yeah, I noticed you're hitting the East Coast, and you're going down south, and you're heading out west, and then you're going to fly back home and do some festivals in Europe. You got a crazy route.
It's mad, and we hit so many different sort of climates along the way. When getting into the hottest climates that we've ever experienced, and then heading up to Canada where it's a little bit colder, and it's a wild ride. You got to stay healthy.
Absolutely. Once you come off of this tour, you guys are playing Download Festival 20. Have you guys ever played Download in the past?
No. And being a UK festival, we've been dying to get on the bill for years. We were booked for 2020, and obviously that fell through for obvious reasons. So that was a real bummer that we missed out on that. But Yeah, it's great to be on this lineup, which is particularly strong, and we're on the same day Metallica are playing, which is really cool. So yeah, super stoked. We've got a great slot up there in the evening on quite a decent stage. So yeah, just to be able to play our music and make some new fans again is like the key, really, just to keep this band evolving and growing the fan base. That's what we're hoping to do.
Is there a chance when you go on these festivals to kind of mingle with the other bands, or I guess kind of fanboy out with some of the bands that inspired you?
Yeah, I mean, usually there's an opportunity. It normally happens in the catering tent, just lining up on the buffet there and just, seeing your idols across the table. We'll see if that happens, some more high profile acts keep to themselves, but it's always nice to like meet other musicians and all going through the same experiences as you. So, so it's really cool to touch base. Yeah.
So the album you're supporting is Fauna. It came out on March 3rd through Inside Out Music. Sort of a loose concept. Everything's kind of tied to an animal, but there's also a story in there related to that. I read that you were inspired by Philip K. Dick, whose book Do Robots Dream of Electric Sheep, and it turned into the Blade Runner movie and stuff like that. So is that sort of the theme that runs throughout Fauna, or just a couple of songs?
No, actually, that was just on the alphabet with me. Actually, each song stands on its own, really. There's no narrative that runs throughout. But like you mentioned, though, the album is linked by the use of animals, if that's metaphorical or actually just using them literally in the songs. That was our approach. It started with sort of thinking about totems and spirit animals, and that was a cool idea to have songs represented by of their own individuality and personality like that way. So, but yeah, that was particularly fun. Well, like I'm a huge Blade Runner fan, and I sort of reread the book to get inspired for that track. So yeah, that was a fun one to do, and it wasn't obvious about the animal aspect. Wasn't too obvious on that one. So it's nice to get a bit deeper with the lyrics.
To break off just a little, did you like the Blade Runner remake? I'm not sure that it held up to the original.
The 2049?
Yeah.
Yeah, I loved it.
Yeah.
It was really cool. Really cool. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, we saw that in the theater when we were out in Brazil last time. So my first experience of it was I think it was in English, but it had like Portuguese subtitles. So it was an interesting experience.
Let's talk a little bit about some of the songs that you've released from the album. Let's talk a little bit about Taurus. Sure. You state in your PR materials it's about kind of the wildebeest migration, the antelope trying to. I think I saw a film on that at the Museum of Science, the antelope.
Really?
Track. But if you want to talk a little bit how kind of the themes behind that song and the other duality of the song being the war in Ukraine.
Yeah, I mean, a couple of the guys suggested the wildebeest as the theme, but when it came to writing the lyrics, I didn't really have sort of anything powerful to link it to. Like, what am I singing about? And it just so happens that at the time the whole crisis in Ukraine was happening, and it seemed prevalent to me that this idea of people traveling in numbers and sort of the power of that message when they're fleeing from their homeland and searching for something some more positive, like it even becomes kind of spiritual if you're looking at it that way, the search for enlightenment and a better life and all this. So I felt like that was my link to the wildebeest idea, which I almost scrapped because I had no sort of real heart to sing about. But that worked out in the end. So yeah, that the current affairs at the time really inspired that creative process.
The duality on Eyes of Ebony is as far as the animal is concerned, was the white rhino's near extinction, but also your guitarist's father passing away.
Correct. Yeah, I mean, he was huge. He played a huge role in Haken's sort of history. Like we we all love and respected Richard's dad, and the passing of him was unexpected and really sad, actually, like for all of us. So we felt like for all he gave to the band in the early days, we wanted to pay respects to that. And we left really the whole lyric department all in the hands of Richard to explore and give it that a really honest, emotional touch. So there's a beautiful thing making that connection to the extinction of the white rhino and sort of the mourning of someone so important and special. So it makes for a really powerful ending to the record.
You have a new addition to the band, keyboardist Peter Jones, who was actually with the band prior to the release of your first album, I believe. So what led to his departure in the very beginning, and what brought him back here today?
Sure, yeah. Pete's been with us from the very beginning of the process of the demos back in 2007, 2008. He was with us, and then decided that he would pursue his academic path in theoretical physics, I believe, was his subject. And he did that, and all the while maintaining his chops on the keyboard. And we always stayed in close contact with him throughout. He was a fan of the band as well, coming to our London shows and supporting us. And later on, around about 2015-16, he hooked up with Richard and Dan Briggs from Between the Buried and Me and made a record called what they called the Nova Collective. It's an instrumental record, really cool. So we kind of got to hear that he was still a really great player. And when the time arose and we had an opening in the band for a keyboard player, it just made perfect sense to invite him back in. Like, it was a no-brainer. Everyone immediately said, "Pete's our man, let's see if he's up for it." And he was, he was available, and it worked out great. And it's given us a real boost in energy and good vibes, and
the album artwork for Fauna, fantastic. Got a lot of detail in there. It's by Dan Goldsworthy. How did you get Dan on board to do the album cover?
So Charlie, our guitarist Charlie, came across him. I don't know how that relationship started. I know that Dan does a lot of covers for, like, I guess, thrash metal bands. That's his thing. And Charlie, being a huge fan of that genre, sort of came across his work and used him for his solo record, Tiktaalica. And we were blown away by the sort of the scope of that artwork. It was almost like a heavy metal Roger Dean concept. And we were looking for a change up a little bit in the art department as well. So perfect opportunity to ask Dan if he'd be interested in working for Haken. And it so happens he's a huge fan, and he got really deep into it. We supplied him with all the lyrics, some of the earlier demos, and some extra notes that I made about what we'd like to see in the stylistically. And he got really deeply involved with that, and turned out amazing. We were blown away, really. It's turned out to be a really great product to own and hold in your hands, which is key these days, in my opinion. Like, to have the physical products, we're kind of advocates for that. We're holding on to that in this digital age.
I was going to say something like that with artwork like that that's so detailed, it kind of plays great to the vinyl medium.
Totally. Yeah. You said it better than me.
You've had a busy year yourself outside of Haken as far as music's concerned. You did a project with the guys from that formerly of Spock's Beard, Nick DiVergiello. I might have said that right, and Neil Morse.
Yeah, man, that's been awesome. It's just a shame we haven't been able to play anything live together yet. But I'm really proud of the record. We're working on a follow-up as well, which is super exciting. Hopefully that will see the light of day later in the year. Yeah, that's gone down pretty well. Like, it's completely unexpected for fans that might be expecting a certain kind of sound from what, to what we normally do in our sort of day jobs. But we had this passion to do this sort of, I guess, stripped down 3-part harmony, a bit sort of more simplistic, I'd say, but equally catchy tunes and rockier numbers, and just really focusing on that sort of that bond of three voices. That's the key thing. And it's music I'm a really big fan of, and I love old country music. I love the Crosby, Stills and Nash vibe. So that was, that really touched me that I was asked to be part of that. Really, it was crazy. I didn't expect it.
Was that something that was born out of the lockdowns?
It was essentially, yeah. And I know that Neil and Nick sort of were struggling to think of a third voice for it, and just gave me a shot. I guess it was a gamble, It works. Our voices together sound amazing, and it's really pleased. Yeah.
You also put out a solo album. You had A Shadow of My Future Self in 2021, and you followed that up with an acoustic session on that one. Mm-hmm. So do you plan on future solo work, or is now with Haken kicking back up and the world opening back open, will there be less solo material?
Oh, sure. Like that was another, I guess, product of pandemic and having all this time, for sure. It was something I always wanted to do, to branch out stylistically again, to do more kind of like arena rock vibes and singer-songwriter stuff. I wrote enough material that I do have more in the bank. So I do intend to eventually put another record together, if there's demand for it, for sure. But yeah, Haken's always the priority, and it's the most time-consuming project. So we'll see. When there's a window of opportunity, I will work on that second record at some point.
And certainly you had a third project, if you can believe it, during lockdown times, called Novena, which was on Frontiers. You had the 11th Hour in 2020 and the Stop Clock EP in 2021. Do you think those releases got kind of lost in the whole pandemic shuffle?
Yeah, I do. It was a big shame, because there was this whole build up to, we wanted for this debut release to come out with a bang. And it came out on March 6th, and we were locked down by March 20th or something like that. And so rather unfortunate, we had some sort of touring planned around it, and release shows and stuff like that, and it all kind of got lost. Yeah, but that's fine. We've had a little bit of a shuffle of the personnel since then. So my co-vocalist is now a female called Pipi, and we're working on new material right now, sort of in the background. It's sort of it's not our main for none of us. It's our main project, so it's work on it as and when we can. And there'll be some Novena activity at some point in the near future, no doubt.
Awesome. Those are all the questions I have for you today, Ross. The new album by Haken is Fauna. It's out now through Inside Out Music, and you start your North American tour on May 3rd.
Oh, man. We can't wait. Hope to see everyone there singing along.
Well, once again, I want to thank Ross Jennings of Haken for coming on the Rock is George podcast. Be sure to check out their latest album, Fauna, out now on Inside Out Music. Head over to your favorite music streaming app. Take a listen to what's available. If you like what you hear, buy a physical copy. Support the artist. Haken is going to be coming to a club near you on their North American Fauna Expedition Tour starting on May 3rd through June 3rd. They start in Nashville, Tennessee. They hit Boston, Massachusetts at the Paradise Rock Club in my neck of the woods on May 9th. Then they're back overseas for Download Festival 20 in the UK in June. For all things Haken, head over to their official website, hakenmusic.com. I also want to thank Jen Farhood of Chipster PR and Inside Out Music for making this interview possible. You've been great. I've been George Dionne. I'll see you again soon.